In 2007, near the Italian town of Mantua, archaeologists opened a Neolithic grave and found two skeletons facing each other. Their arms were wrapped around one another. Their legs were entwined. They had held that embrace for 6,000 years. The dig was led by Elena Menotti, who had spent 25 years excavating across Italy and had never seen anything like it. The couple were young, both around 20 when they died. The world named them the Lovers of Valdaro. And they raise a question that sounds simple and turns out to be hard. Were ancient humans loyal to one partner the way this embrace suggests? Or is that a story we tell ourselves because it flatters us? Start with the word loyal, because it hides several separate questions. Staying with one person for a single season, raising one child together as a team, a bond that holds until death, a promise kept even when nobody is watching.
Ancient people left no letters and no vows we can read. What they left was their bones, their bodies, and their DNA, and all three of those carry information. Biologists split the word into two. Social monogamy means a pair that lives together and shares the raising of young. Sexual monogamy means the two never mate with anyone else. The two do not always line up. Take songbirds. Around 9 in 10 species pair up socially. Yet DNA tests of their chicks show a twist. Many were fathered by a neighboring male. A couple can look devoted at the nest and still hide affairs from view. Hold on to that gap, because the same split runs all through the human story. One answer reaches further back than any other. Owen Lovejoy at Kent State University argues that pairing off is old, older than our own species, reaching back before we walked fully upright. His key evidence has a name: Ardi, a female Ardipithecus ramidus who died 4.4 million years ago in the Middle Awash region of Ethiopia. A team spent 17 years lifting her skeleton out of the rock and published the results in the journal Science in October 2009. Lovejoy fixed on her teeth. In gorillas and baboons, males grow long dagger canines and use them to fight rival males over females. In Ardi, males and females carry almost the same small teeth. To Lovejoy, smaller canines pointed to less fighting between males. His idea runs like this. Instead of fighting, males began carrying food back to females, and females bonded with the steady providers who kept returning. Lovejoy added one more piece. A female chimpanzee advertises her fertile days with a swelling every male can see. A human female gives almost no outward sign at all. Hiding ovulation, in this view, kept a male close, since he could father a child only by staying around. Concealed fertility and steady food worked together to hold the pair. Other scientists push back, and their main tool is body size. In many primates, males grow much larger than females when a few males dominate all the mating, the way a silverback gorilla rules his group. When the sexes are closer in size, pairs become more likely. So researchers measure that gap in fossil skeletons. Here, the trouble begins. Take Lucy, the famous Australopithecus afarensis, found at Hadar in Ethiopia in 1974. She lived 3.2 million years ago. Study her species, and one team sees a modest gap and reads monogamy into it. Another team sees a wide gap and reads fierce male competition. Same bones, opposite conclusions, decades of argument, and no winner yet. So attention turned to a stranger source, the living body. In 1979, the biologist Roger Short noticed that testicle size across apes tracks their mating system. Chimpanzees, where a female mates with several males in a day, have enormous testes because rival sperm compete inside her. Gorillas, where one male guards a whole group and rivals rarely get close, have small ones.
Humans sit in between, closer to the small end. There is a second clue in the body. Almost every other primate male has a bone inside the penis. Human males lost it. Both signals point one way. Our ancestors were far tamer than chimpanzees, and the pressure from sperm competition on our line stayed low. Modern genetics adds a number. Test how often a child's real father differs from the presumed one, and the rate lands near 1 or 2 in 100 across most populations studied. A history of constant secret affairs would leave a far higher figure. Then there are the voles, which handed us the chemistry of bonding. Prairie voles form long partnerships and raise their young together. Their cousins, the montane and meadow voles, mate and move on.
In 1993, a team including Sue Carter, Tom Insel, and Larry Young published work in the journal Nature, tracing the split to 2 hormones, vasopressin and oxytocin. The faithful voles carry receptors for them packed into the brain's reward centers. The wandering voles largely lack them there. Block the vasopressin receptor in a prairie vole, and the bond never forms. Add extra copies to a restless vole, and it starts acting like a faithful one. Humans run on the same 2 hormones, which is why the vole became a window into our attachments. Not every researcher buys the tidy monogamy story. The psychologist Christopher Ryan argued something different. Our ancestors, he said, were far more sexually open, closer to bonobos than to any faithful couple. Bonobos share as much DNA with us as chimpanzees do, and they mate freely across the group. Ryan also pointed at the canine argument's weak spots. Male bonobos keep long canines while staying promiscuous, and gibbons hold large canines while pairing for life. The teeth alone, he argued, cannot settle ancient fidelity. This still leaves the deepest question. If our closest ape relatives mostly did not pair up, why did we? In 2013, 2 teams answered within months of each other and clashed. One team, led by Christopher Opie in London, mapped the entire primate family tree. They found that monogamy tends to appear right after a brutal problem, males killing infants they did not father, to bring the mothers back into fertility sooner. A father who stays can guard his own child. In their reading, pairing up formed to shield infants. The other team, Dieter Lucas and Tim Clutton Brock at Cambridge, looked across every mammal group and saw a different trigger. Monogamy appeared when females spread out and lived far apart.
When a male could not defend several scattered females at once, staying with one and helping raise her young became his best available move. Same year, same puzzle. 2 answers that still compete. One says pairs formed to protect infants. The other says females spaced themselves out and left the males no better option. Now the fact that breaks every tidy story. When anthropologists catalog the documented human societies, most of them, around 85%, have permitted a man to take more than one wife. That sounds like proof of common polygamy, until you look closer. In practice, only wealthy or powerful men could support several wives at once, so most people in those same societies still lived in a single pair. The permission was common. The daily reality stayed mostly monogamous. And loyalty, where it existed, may have come with a time limit. The anthropologist Helen Fisher gathered divorce records from dozens of separate countries and found a pattern that repeated across cultures. Separations often peaked around the 4th year of marriage, close to the span a couple needs to carry one child through its most helpless stage. Her proposal holds that human bonds evolved to last long enough to raise one child through infancy, then to fade, freeing each partner to bond again. Our extinct cousins leave clues too. In 2022, a team led by Loritz Skov, working with Svante Pabo's group, sequenced 13 Neanderthals from Shagarskaya Cave in the Altai Mountains of Siberia. Among them lay a father and his teenage daughter, and a small cluster of close relatives who had lived and died together. The whole community looked tiny, perhaps 10 to 20 people. One detail stood out. The male lineages were nearly identical, while the female lineages varied widely.
The cleanest reading is that women moved between groups to find partners, while the men stayed put. Even among Neanderthals, forming a bond often meant a woman leaving her community to join another. So, were ancient humans loyal to one partner? The honest answer refuses to be simple. Our ancestors were pair bonders by nature, and flexible ones. The bones, the bodies, the hormones, and the buried couples all point the same direction. Most people lived in couples. Most stayed together. Most raised their children as a team. Yet every strand of evidence leaves room for exceptions. Some kept more than one partner. Some strayed in secret. Some bonds ended after a few years and new ones began. Loyalty was real for our ancestors. It was simply never absolute, and it was never guaranteed. The two young people buried at Valdaro were almost certainly devoted to each other. Whether they stayed together for 3 years or 30 is a question no skeleton can answer. What we can say is narrower and steadier. The urge to pair, to stay, to raise a child together is ancient, shaped by our hormones and our past. What we did with that urge was always our own choice. It still is.